This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Welcome, one and all, to the Party Loaded podcast for Tuesday, the 1st of May. This is your weekly hit of everything great in the world of video games, which was almost undone this evening by the very fabric of the Australian internet. But we said nay, for we are Party Loaded and the show must go on. So to bring that boisterous banter directly to you, I am one of your hosts, Luke Retallick, partying up tonight with the Joyful Jam. Hello.
Oh my god, you are full of beans.
I am. I must say you look quite smashing tonight, Jam. Hello.
Oh god, what's happening?
And the ever cheerful Christian as well. Hello.
Pinch and a punch, first day of the month, no returns.
Fuck. Absolutely.
Excellent.
And I haven't done that for years. That really made me feel young again. Oh, how you going, guys? I missed you.
I'm good. I missed you as well.
Yeah.
You're gallivanting somewhere.
You were gone and stuff. It was horrible. Good.
Yeah.
How are your adventures overseas?
Yeah, it was good. Like, for anyone listening, of course, they know that we took 1 week break as far as the show is concerned, but we did sort of backdate some of our recording and sneakily got a bit more time in than otherwise. So it's actually been about 2 and a bit weeks since we caught up. So, it was good. So I'm holidaying with the family in New Zealand and, not a huge amount of gaming or gaming hobby activity over there, but I managed to squeeze a little bit in, so it was good fun. But more real life sort of activities like whitewater rafting and driving around and trying not to kill a whole family in a camper van, all that sort of stuff.
I hear the resolution's really good in that real life thing.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like the 3D aspects, just mint.
It's pay to win though.
Oh my god.
Absolutely, pay to win. And I mean, the drop off with effort to outcome is just, it's severe. So yeah.
And that 18-year tutorial. Oof.
Yeah, absolutely. Fucking loot boxes. Like, holy shit. You just, yeah. Anyway, so enough of all that shit. Now we were just sort of saying, and I do have a segue here, and don't be scared because I'm not going to do the thing that everyone's terrified about. We have all seen the Infinity War, so we can check that off. Yep. My first order of business when I got back, apart from picking up like a whole bunch of new games. Now I just want you to remember Infinity War because I'm going to circle back around to that shortly, and it is relevant to something we'll talk about tonight. Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, we have had a big month of games, and kind of a shame in a way that we did sort of take a week break around the time that a lot of the big stuff was hitting, because one of the big things that we kind of have seen getting chatted about on the internet everywhere that we haven't touched at all yet is God of War. So I think that despite the saturation that's out there, we haven't said shit about it yet, so we probably should. So we've all been playing.
Yes.
What do you guys think so far? Like, Christian, you want to kick us off? What's your God of War experience been like?
It's a dang good video game. Gosh darn it. It's just really, nice. It just feels nice to play. I don't know. It's been a while since I've really just had a consistently pleasurable, amazing time playing a game like that, where the gameplay is fun, the story is amazing, the graphics are incredible, and the action is fun. And it's just a really nice experience to play. I love it.
Jam, I might have this wrong, and maybe you can remember because my memory going back is kind of a little spacey.
You're going to rely on me?
Do you remember just before New Year's how we were making some predictions for games in 2018? And I think, look, maybe someone can go back and check this. I think, and I may be wrong, but I think I said something along the lines of when God of War releases, I think it's going to be my Horizon Zero Dawn of 2018.
Yeah, that sounds like something you'd say.
Yeah. So,
yes. Yeah. I didn't play Horizon, and I feel like this is the game I was waiting for. This, the amazement that other people got from Horizon, I think I'm getting from God of War.
Yeah. I think, there's definitely some similarities as well. some of the the puzzle solving, maybe not so much, and the combat's obviously a bit different, but the open world aspects of sort of collecting and upgrading and some of the crafting stuff maybe a little similar. The narrative, obviously total different tones, but the way that it does evolve over the gameplay, I think there's kind of some relatability there. I don't know. What do you think, Jam? How are you going with it so far?
I'm really enjoying it. So I got stuck into it when my GPU on my PC died and had to wait 4 days for that to get fixed. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if it's because I haven't played any of the previous games, but I find that I'm not super invested in the characters yet and don't 100% understand what's going on in the story. Like, I understand everything at face value, but I don't understand the history behind it.
Yeah.
And if I'm missing something from previous games.
Okay.
However, the second I got a chance to deviate from the main storyline, I faffed off somewhere I wasn't supposed to be and started finding all of these purple monsters and having a ball. Mm-hmm. Just exploring, finding treasure maps, looking for where they're buried, encountering puzzles and solving them. I love that stuff. It's why I haven't finished Horizon Zero Dawn. Every time I jump back in, determined to complete the storyline, I get distracted by the world, the beautiful big world. And God of War is very different environmentally, but it's still a fascinating world to explore. Yeah. And I'm so intrigued by how many different ways Christopher Judge can say "boy."
I'm waiting for the moment, and I'm sure this is going to happen at some point where he says "indeed."
Indeed. Yeah.
It's got to come out, surely. It's like he's signature. So, yeah, like you, I haven't played any of the previous God of War games either. Christian, have you encountered them before? You had any time with them?
I played the three numbered. I played God of War 2, God of War 3. Didn't play Ascension or the other two prequels.
So, I mean, the impression I get, and you can probably fill in your take on this from having played those, is that there is a considerable jump in terms of story that we kind of uncover as we go through this game, rather than, like you said, Jam, it feels like maybe you've missed something because you didn't play the other games. I think that maybe that's true for everybody because of the way that they've kind of time jumped. So
I'm not sure that
totally
I had missed. I'm just wondering that I'm not as invested as I would otherwise be had I played the earlier games. Like, at the moment, I don't rate this a 10 out of 10 game like so many people have, but I appreciate that I'm still early days. I've been ignoring the main storyline as soon as I possibly could. I'm sure it's going to ramp up. Just that first boss fight alone was so epic. Yeah. I'm looking forward to more of that.
What that reminds me of, to compare it to another piece of fiction, heaps is Logan, where you have a fighting character, like a warrior, who is his main sort of story has already happened. It's done. And this is in the future. He's tired, he's worn down, and he's sick of his prime. He's like, and it's kind of like the epilogue that turns into a full story. And so I get that, where if you watched Logan, you had no idea who Wolverine was, you wouldn't have that same investment because you don't have the context of that character. But it's very similar to Logan in that regard.
Old man Kratos.
It's old man Kratos. Yeah.
I can totally see that.
But the character of Kratos in the first three games is actually a pretty shit character, pretty poorly written actually, and really unlikable. And I think one of the most interesting things they've done with this game is completely flip that on his head. And he's still gruff and mean, but they're from what I've played so far, doing a very good job at making him much more sympathetic and much more understandable, because it's like he's learnt the lessons that you wanted him to be learning through the first three games but never did, sort of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't want to go on about too much, but yeah, first three games, he's an asshole and he's violent and mean and he murders innocent people basically. And so to see the transition from that to this character, it's such a big jump that it's really interesting to see how they're going to fill that in.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm definitely getting the feeling that part of where the character's at, and this is again pure speculation on my part, having not gone too far into the game yet, is that a lot of his motivation at the moment is that he sort of, as you say, has kind of paid for his sins of the past, but doesn't want his son to tread in those footsteps at the same time as kind of preparing his son for the inevitability of him having to deal with some of that shit.
Totally.
So, yeah.
And like spoilers for God of War 3 if anybody cares, but that game ends with the story being written right into a corner. Like Kratos kills all of the Greek gods except for like Aphrodite, I think. Kills them all. Zeus is dead, like Hermes is dead, Ares is long dead, and the world, you think it's the world, is messed up because every time he kills a god, the thing that they control messes up. So the ocean is messed up because he killed Neptune, the sun is messed up, and he's basically just by himself in a wrecked world. But it turns out that must have just been the area around Greece, and then he's got up north. But it's interesting that they have managed to continue the story because it was basically the end of the world in God of War 3.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, it makes me really excited for the story that's yet to come in that game. And I got to say, like, being about 5 or 6 hours in, it feels like I've actually just finished the tutorial.
Sure.
Yeah, the way that it introduces mechanics very, very slowly, I think is, it's a much bigger slow burn than a lot of other games of its like that I've played before. So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the first sort of opportunity to really explore certainly doesn't come immediately, so which is good. But, I guess there's probably not much more we can say without starting to get into spoiler territory, apart from, just play it and try it. But, yeah, I think, Jam, to your point, like, I would agree. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 game for me yet either. But I definitely sort of at the point that I'm at see a lot of potential moving forward. Like, I don't feel like we've seen anywhere near everything yet. So,
yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah.
Early days.
Absolutely. So, speaking of potential, Christian, we haven't talked much about Hearthstone in recent episodes of the show. Jam doesn't know any other truth to that because she wasn't here.
I'm just going to go get a drink.
You've had a bit of an itching for a twitching. So, what's been going on?
So I decided to start Twitch streaming Hearthstone again. I experimented with it a little bit last year, but didn't get off the ground. But over the last sort of 3 weeks, I've been streaming, about 3 times a week at twitch.tv/millpool, which is my Twitch handle. I've just been plodding along doing sort of 3-4 hour sessions, and I met all the milestones to get the Twitch affiliate status, which is where people can actually start sort of subscribing to your channel, and you can earn a tiny little drip drop of revenue.
Well done.
Yay, thank you. And I'm really enjoying it. I don't know why I stopped last year, but yeah, it's definitely something I'm going to be keeping up sort of three nights a week, I think. Yeah, it's been really fun. I've been having a few people in my chat hanging around. I've been lucky that a few Hearthstone pro streamers, like one guy named Pizza and a guy and Naviu, who's from Perth, have given me hosts, which is where when they end their stream and they sort of pass on their viewers to me, and whoever wants to sort of stick around can watch me instead. It's a really good way to actually get people watching if you have sort of contacts that can give you hosts. So that's been a real boon as well.
Mm-hmm. Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I think, having just been experimenting a bit with our own Twitch channel for the show in the recent month, it's been good fun sort of tinkering around with that and getting used to the sort of format behind it and some of the tools. So, yeah. But, gaming with friends is one thing. Gaming with a bit of an audience, I think, is also fun for similar reasons, like actually having people to rip off of and sort of chat to while you're playing is always good fun. And there's certain games that are really well suited to that. I think Hearthstone's definitely one of them.
Hearthstone's great because you can take that time to think about your plays and talk between turns, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just giving me a feeling of doing something productive while I play, because I'd be playing the game for the same amount of time anyway, but this way I'm actually sort of creating something while I play instead of just sitting alone in my room.
Yeah. So, Witchwood in general I've been enjoying quite a bit. Having been travelling over the last couple of weeks, it was something I went to quite a bit when it came to my gaming time. So, but there's definitely, one of the most exciting periods in Hearthstone in particular is usually when a new expansion drops in the first month. All of the standard sort of metagame is up in the air and people are experimenting a lot, and you encounter a lot of new stuff, which is a lot of fun. But this time we also 2 weeks after the proper launch, I think we had the Monster Hunt format go live as well, which is kind of like the updated dungeon run for Witchwood. So
yeah.
But a bit different this time. Like, it's only 4 different bosses that you have to face, and instead of doing the standard class decks, it's a bit more of a narrative kind of story thing with the 4 characters that you use.
It's still 8 bosses from a pool of, I think, 45 different ones.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, but it's just four heroes that you play as is the key difference there.
Okay.
Whereas in Dungeon Run it was all 9 classes, but this is just 4 heroes with custom hero powers.
Yeah, and then like a final boss thing after those 4 are complete, from what I understand.
Yes.
So
the witch of the Witchwood.
Yeah, so that's been cool. I only just started kicking that off today, just sort of playing catch up since I've been back, and that was a lot of fun. I actually think I prefer it to Dungeon Run with the way that they've set it up. I think it's a bit different. So yeah, adds a bit more story behind the expansion, which I think is something they do really, really well. So yeah. I got to say as well, I did return to an old game while I was away and became addicted to something that I did not expect to become addicted to again. I'm back playing Pokemon GO, guys.
That's quite a surprise.
Yeah, tell me about it. I blame my kids. Seriously. No, it's one of those things, like, as we're sort of, roaming around on holiday and visiting lots of new places and that kind of thing, I have my phone out, every now and then when I'm just, filling time. And, of course, my eldest sort of looks over my shoulder and says, "Hey, Dad, you haven't played Pokemon GO for a while. Why don't you check out what's in this area?" And I was like, okay, I guess I'll check it out. And then as soon as I discovered all of the new mechanics and new features and things they've added to the game and actually started sort of getting involved and catching stuff again, it's like, this is actually a lot better than I remember. So kind of didn't stop, basically, which is hilarious. It's been a bunch of fun. I think they've done a lot of smart stuff when it comes to improving upon what we played, going back a year or so. And now that they've actually got 3 generations of Pokemon in the game as well. Like, there's about, I think they're up to around 400 or so catchable Mons now, which is, a considerable amount bigger than what it was initially. So
it's huge.
Yeah, that's heaps, and they'll keep adding to it as well. It seems like the release schedule for that game has actually kept fairly consistent as time has gone on. But they've made it possible to get some of the really hard to find stuff as well by just getting involved in completing weekly tasks, which I really like. So
that's nice.
Yeah, it's good.
I was going to ask if you've encountered any like legendaries, anything like that, done any of the raids.
Yeah, I have tried a couple of the raids. They're interesting. I definitely think that there is a big curve towards some of the more powerful monsters on the raids. Like, you either need a team of people to go in and assist you with some of them, or you need to have like a team of really high-level Pokemon yourself to stand a chance of taking a couple of them down. Because the thing is, you can beat them, but there's a time limit, and doing it within the time limit is the trick. So,
and then even when you beat them, you still have to throw balls at them to catch them. And
I haven't found that too much of an issue because as long as you've got a few of the like the berries and things to make them a bit easier catch rate, and I think they've actually improved the catch rate for just about everything in the game as it is.
That's good.
Yeah,
because the very last time I played Pokemon Go was literally when they started bringing out the legendary birds, and I went in on that and like met up with people at Kings Park in like a big group to try and catch the legendary birds, and I did it like 3 or 4 times, and like even when I defeated them, just couldn't catch them, and I was just like, well, this sucks. I'm taking hours out of my day and doing what I feel like I should be kind of rewarded for doing, and I'm just not getting anything out of it. So that's what caused me to sort of drop the game. So if they've tweaked that, then that's a lot better. I
definitely think they have. I've not failed to capture a monster that I've beaten in a raid yet. So
cool.
Yeah, and a lot of those legendary ones you can actually get the encounter to try and capture them as a result of completing like a chain of tasks. So it's almost like a quest system, if you like. So, the way they've done it is really good. It does vary quite a bit in terms of what tasks you have to complete. Like, you might get one on a given day, which is capture 3 insect-type Pokemon, or another one is, chain 2 nice curveball throws in a row, or something that. So, there's a good variety of stuff. But I think it's a lot smarter. Like, it's taken quite a bit of the RNG out of the game and introduced a bit more of the reward for consistent play stuff, which I actually value, because I think, that's the sort of thing that is predictable and it requires effort as opposed to just luck. So, but I'm having a good time. And I just, as fate would have it, discovered today that apparently at my new workplace, I'm literally sitting on a gym. So, nice. If anyone I work with happens to listen to this, that's totally not what I'm going to do. So, anything else over the last couple of weeks, guys? What else has been going on?
I checked out the demo that Quantic Dream put up for Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
So this was just, if you've watched the E3 trailers where it's had like the hostage situation where there's like a crazy android who's got a human child hostage. It's basically that. So I think it's just the E3 playable demo.
That'd be the one that I played at PAX last year as well then. Same
yeah.
one. Yep.
And, if you played it then, it's pretty short. It only took me kind of maybe 15 minutes to get through. Game's very pretty looking game. And I think I'm lukewarm on it so far. The one thing that put me off is in this hostage situation that you're going through, how it has like a percentage meter of your like likelihood of success. And then the dialogue choices that you make, you see that percentage go up and down. And I felt a little like railroaded, like rather than sort of choosing what I want to say, it's like the game designer just has like, oh, this is the right answer. You pick the wrong answer. And in a game that's supposed to be sort of free form like that, put me off a little bit. I'd prefer there to not be like such a direct indicator of your chance of success.
Now, on that, I agree with you to a certain extent, but my understanding of that percentage rating was that was the chance of the negotiation failing as opposed to the scenario. So maybe it's the case that some of the best ways to finish that is, in fact, waiting for an opportunity when the negotiation does break down and seizing the moment to actually take action as opposed to doing it at the wrong time. So
I feel like that's giving the game a little too much credit. I think the impression I got is that the high you want to get that percentage higher because the more positive outcomes, saving the child, saving yourself, saving the android, they're all going to come about from increasing that percentage. I could be wrong, but that's the gameplay sort of leads you to encourages you, like whenever you look at the clues and examine the clues, that percentage goes up. There's nothing that you sort of accomplish where the percentage goes down that would suggest that that's a viable option. But
yeah. No, I get what you mean. Look, I mean, this game's coming out in a few weeks' time. It's on the 25th of May, I believe, that it's launching. One of my biggest fears when it does come out is that, I mean, we've seen 3 of the scenarios so far, I think, with all of the previews that have been available online. There's that hostage situation, there's the street riot one, and
there's this domestic abuse sort of thing.
That's the one, yeah. So those 3 we know about. One of my fears is that if they're relying on the different outcomes for each of these scenarios and therefore the inherent replay value that comes with those, I think that maybe they have banked on having less of the scenarios because you're going to be replaying them more often as opposed to actually putting more content in the game, which if that's the case, I'm not going to be super happy because I actually want there to be more content. I think that's kind of like I wouldn't say a cheat's way out, but it doesn't really add a huge amount of value if you don't want to replay each scenario like multiple times over. So,
and I worry that by breaking it up into all these different scenarios where you play as different characters, that it might lose a bit of narrative focus. Like there's clearly a lot of social issues and stuff it's talking about, but jumping between so many characters and places, I'm concerned that they're not going to sort of link up and be a focused narrative in a satisfying way. I think Beyond Two Souls had the same problem where even though you're playing as one character, because it was broken up amongst so many different scenarios and you jump back and forth across time, it hurt it a bit. And I don't know. Yeah.
I get what you mean. It's sort of like the situation with, the Tarantino Pulp Fiction movie, but there was a connective tissue that actually linked all of those events together, which made it work.
Yeah. And I'm not sure how adept David Cage is at accomplishing that Tarantino did, but we'll see. I think I'll pick it up when it comes out just for curiosity's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely on the list for the year. So, all right, well, cool. Well, that's a whole bunch of recent gaming, and there's probably a bit of news to catch up on this week as well. So we'll get stuck in. There's a couple of Australia sort of relevant ones that we'll just kick off tonight with. So apologies to anyone who is listening internationally, but this stuff is kind of big as far as the gaming scene in Oz goes. So now we don't have a whole bunch of video game content on major network TV stations, but there are a couple of shows in recent years that have been rather large. One in particular was Good Game, which I think we spoke about late last year. The main Good Game program actually got cancelled in favour of continuing with their kid-friendly focused sort of offshoot, which is called Good Game Swarm Point, or Good Game SP. My kids love that show. And a couple of the hosts of that program at the time actually sort of split off and ended up getting picked up by Channel 7 to do a similar kind of show that was a bit more adult focused called Screenplay. So that was Stephanie Hex Bendixson and Nick, or otherwise known as Nick Boy Richardson. So they did that for about a year, and then it just got announced, I think it was yesterday, that unfortunately Channel 7's cancelling Screenplay. So didn't last super long at all, but it came out of nowhere. Like there was apparently the crew on the show didn't even know, they didn't get a chance to do like a final program. It was like literally they probably got ushered into a boardroom, execs told them it was done, and then that was it. So super sad. Was one of those things where I mean, I know it prompted a lot of discussion amongst some of our friends, and Jam, you sort of were part of that during the week about, the place of, network TV and actually having this sort of content in this day and age when alternatives like YouTube and Twitch and that kind of stuff exists, like whether it actually adds any value to that format. What do you think about that?
Exactly that. Although those weren't my points that were raised, it was some of our friends. It's just not the best avenue. I hardly watch network TV at all ever anymore.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate, that there's better avenues for delivering that content, but I mean, they've cancelled it completely. Yeah. So that's a bit odd and a bit sad.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to compete internationally.
I feel bad for all the staff and hosts of these shows, but I mean, Hex and Barjo have both been doing successful Twitch streams now. So I know Barjo has a crazy successful Twitch setup, so he's probably raking in, plenty of cash. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. But it's a sad thing for everyone who was working on the shows.
Yeah, I think Barjo in particular, like my personal taste with him is that, Stephen Donaldson, when he was actually on Good Game and he left of his own accord, he wasn't actually caught up in any of these sort of events. He sort of pulled the plug, I think it was after last year, to focus on Twitch, which, maybe he saw the writing on the wall and made the move when he thought the time was right. He is much more watchable on Twitch than on Good Game, I think, personally.
I agree.
So, yeah. He gets to be himself as opposed to like a slightly forced mold of the character he needs to play on that show. So, yeah, which is interesting. I think that there's still a place for those kind of shows. Like there's definitely an audience out there that isn't that audience that frequents YouTube and frequents Twitch, and kind of it's a good launch pad, I guess, to sort of getting some of those people involved on those platforms just by sort of connection. But yeah, not anyone who is like us, who already frequents those places, does not watch network TV for these programs. So yeah, I completely agree. And another interesting related thing today, ABC's sort of Twitter account for Good Game, it was actually announced that they're going to be shutting down their Twitter account, and Good Game Sport Point won't be using that anymore. So that seemed like an interesting one too. It's like the show's continuing, but they're shutting down their Twitter account. What does that actually mean?
Maybe just budget slashed and can't pay a community manager anymore, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like a bit of a, clean up consolidation of stuff that maybe should have been shut down when the May program wound up. But I don't know. When you've got a good Twitch account with that big an audience and it's a resource to be used, I don't know what they gain from shutting it down. And it's not like the host appeared to not be keen to continue using it, but I don't know. Sometimes weird decisions get made by corporate elements in these organizations, and the audience certainly has no rhyme or reason that they can see for why these things are done. But yeah. All right. Well, anyway, what else we got? Full trailer got revealed for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Did you guys get a chance to see that?
I did not, actually.
No, I still have to play the second game.
Me too. I played the first one, thought it was great, and then because the second one came out on Xbox first, and I don't have an Xbox, I skipped it.
Yeah.
But I should pick it up on PS4 now.
I played through it not that long ago on PC, and I actually thought that was a really good platform for it. So can recommend, just FYI. Like I thought that it was a little slower to get started than the first one was, but once it got into it, it was a super good game. So, and story-wise, I think, it's definitely that middle of a trilogy chapter where things actually start to matter quite a bit in terms of what's going on. So, but yeah, no, Shadow of the Tomb Raider looks like it's going to have a very heavy sort of jungle Mayan temple kind of theme. There seems to be a lot more human element in it, like a lot of tribes people sort of show up in the trailer that you see. Lara having to make some pretty interesting choices, and the word is that this is kind of the end of her origin trilogy. So a lot of the stuff that actually makes her the Tomb Raider is going to happen during this third game. So
what you're telling me is she doesn't die in the second game.
That's probably a good guess at this point.
I don't know about this naming convention. Shadow of the Tomb Raider being the third one. And Rise of the Tomb Raider was the second one? I don't know. It should have been Rise, Shadow, and then the third one's just Tomb Raider. I think that's That's how they should have done it.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Check, please. Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I mean, Shadow definitely seems to be a play on the Eclipse theme that they've got running throughout a lot of the promotional material. But yeah, I agree. I think that maybe they should have put a bit more thought to that. It does make me wonder, like, if this is sort of the origin trilogy, have they got more games planned after this to actually be like, you know, adult Tomb Raider, full grown into her potential kind of stuff?
No doubt.
Yeah.
Let's see how well it
Why
sells.
wouldn't they?
Yeah, I think it's probably a shame that it's hitting in a year where there's quite a bit of attention diverted to other things like Red Dead 2 and that kind of stuff, because I haven't seen as much hype around this game as I saw for maybe the last two, but it's just a product of the time that we're in at the moment, I guess. So
Yeah, Red Dead 2. By the time you folks are listening, this will have already been released, but we are anticipating a trailer tomorrow. They announced a trailer date. Like, that's so weird.
Yeah,
I hate that.
This is the announcement that we're going to show you something that's just a trailer for something that's
Not
coming out in
now.
October.
We won't show you the trailer yet. We'll show you in 2 days, but we're going to show you. Isn't that neat? No, just give me the trailer.
at least they didn't have a teaser trailer for the trailer.
Oh, God. So that's happening tomorrow. We will, I'm sure I'll be giddy
Yeah.
once I've watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, Rockstar are one of the few companies that are big enough to pull that off. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
They probably also don't need to. Like, I feel that, like, you know, if it was the case of a new GTA coming out and, you know, Red Dead as well, because it's pretty much, in terms of the media hype, owning the back half of the year at the moment, like most other games companies don't want to have, you know, any chance of landing around the same time just for, you know, risk of being overshadowed. Do they even really need another trailer? Like, it's kind of like a Star Wars movie in a lot of ways. I think, like, you almost can get away with just not doing it at all.
I reckon they'll have a trailer for Red Dead online, focusing on the online section. I think that's going to be a big part of it.
That would be very smart.
Rumours that there's a battle royale
Of course.
in the multiplayer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely. I don't know. What do you guys want out of the trailer? Do you want to actually see gameplay, or would you be happy for it to be a story sort of thing?
I don't know. I don't want to know too much about the game, really.
Yeah.
Yep. Keep it.
I'm
shrouded in
happy. I'm happy for another tone trailer.
Okay. Yeah. I
I
think.
would like a multiplayer trailer. I don't want the single player spoiled too much. I want to be surprised. But the multiplayer, if I can appreciate exactly how, you know, our posse is going to ride around the desert, that'd be neat.
Yeah. What I would actually like to see them do, which I know they won't because it probably involves a bit too much coordination on an international basis, is I'd actually like them to drop the trailer in a place that nobody actually knows when it's coming and just actually play it in the middle of, like, the next episode of Westworld. So that would be super
Surprise!
cool. Yeah, exactly. You know, there's no connective tissue here at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like you two. I don't really care what's in the trailer. I think I'm just excited regardless. So, will be interesting to see what comes.
Speaking of trailers, Nintendo this week put out a trailer for their next mobile title, which is an RPG. They've called it Dragalia Lost. And it's being developed by Cygames, who are a pretty small developer. I think their biggest thing was Grand Blue Fantasy, which is like a gacha, really popular mobile game in Japan. Mm-hmm. But they don't have a huge track record. And yeah, it looks like a little cute chibi art style RPG. Not many details announced, but you can bet that it'll have some form of like a gachapon system, loot box style system in it. And yeah, they haven't actually announced a date yet, and the trailer's only in Japanese, but I'm pretty sure they've said that they will launch it in North America and Europe eventually. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm interested in it. I get sucked in by the cute anime art style, and the trailer had a song by Daoko, who's a Japanese singer I like. So that sucked me in.
Yeah. Dragalia Lost is a cool name. I like that title.
It is a
actually.
neat name. Yeah.
It seems that Nintendo has slowed down a little bit in terms of their mobile titles. I mean, they had a few, you know, early ones coming out fairly close to each other, and they had, you know, the Animal Crossing and what was the Heroes
Mario
one?
Run, Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem Heroes.
Fire Emblem, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all seem to hit, you know, reasonably close to each other, and to the point where it didn't feel like any of them really hit that well. Like, I know Fire Emblem did pretty decently, but yeah. I mean, them taking their time and actually putting some meatier stuff out, I think would be quite good, because you can get games on mobile platforms that, you know, released a decade ago that have been sort of, you know, redone for mobile. Actually, a great example being some of the SNES RPGs have actually had mobile ports done. I'm pretty sure you can get Chrono Trigger on mobile, and because that was recently updated, from what I understand. So that sort of stuff, like decent length games on mobile platforms, I think is something that there's a large cry out for. Like there's a definite audience that wants that.
I seem to recall a quote from someone at Nintendo saying that they never plan to release console backlog games on mobile. Like they just flat out said that they don't intend to do that. But I could be wrong there. But it seems like they're treating mobile as its own unique thing, and they don't want to use it as like a virtual console or anything like that. Yeah,
probably because they've got their own plans for that. Possibly on Switch. Hopefully they're doing that.
And then speaking of more Nintendo stuff, just a interesting development where the Nintendo president, Kimishima, who only sort of came into power on the tragic passing of Satoru Iwata in 2015, he's already stepping down, and he's being replaced by a gentleman named, what was it? It was Shuntaro Furukawa, who's a much younger man at 46, and the outgoing Kimishima was 68. So people are hoping that Furukawa will have some more sort of energy and personality, like Iwata did. And Furukawa has mostly worked with Pokemon Company. So that's another interesting development where you might bode well for future Pokemon games.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see how that affects Nintendo.
It spun me out looking at an image today of like portraits on the wall of all of the past presidents of Nintendo and going back, what was it, like 150 years?
Yeah.
Of the company? I was thinking to myself, hang on a second, I'm pretty sure the NES came out like not 150 years ago at least, but when you actually think that Nintendo existed long before some of the stuff that we associate with it in its modern form, that just blows my mind. So
it was Hanafuda cards, like the traditional Japanese card game that they started with. And then they still maintain in their sort of corporate philosophy that they're a toy company, they're not a video game company. That's how they phrase it. But it just seems to be video games has been the focus for the last 30 years.
Yep. Sure, Nintendo, you do you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in terms of what Nintendo have got going on, they have released a few details of what they're planning at E3. So, I mean, similar to last year where they had a big focus on kind of their tentpole title for the year, which, in 2017 was Super Mario Odyssey. This year it looks like the big push is going to be on the new Smash. So pretty much all of the main sort of content of their big presentation, they've said is going to be stuff that is coming out this year, and anything that's sort of in the future for 2019 and beyond. It won't be a focus at all. Now, last year they kind of said a similar thing, and they were truthful for the most part, but then we did see a few things outside of that which, made us think, oh, Nintendo, you lied to us, but we don't care because this is really awesome. Like the, the Metroid Prime 4 sort of teaser and stuff like that. So I think, it's clear that we shouldn't be expecting like a whole bunch of content for things like Metroid Prime 4 and maybe the future Pokemon title for the Switch, which we know is in development. But I don't know. Besides Smash, is there anything that you think that you'd be excited about this year, or is it? Because to me, that doesn't seem as exciting as last year, just on the surface.
No, me either.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Yoshi game?
I expect we'll see a few more Wii U ports. Maybe the Super Mario 3D World, or some of the RPGs like Sharp FE might come over, or I know that Platinum Games said they want to bring over Wonderful 101.
Okay.
So I expect we'll see a few more Wii U ports announced.
Yeah. Well, they do have their big Treehouse presentation thing after the main E3 showcase, I guess. So, I think they've got like 3 solid days of ongoing stuff that'll sort of get mentioned during the Treehouse presentation. And last year, one of the things that stuck out during that, which wasn't part of their main I guess spiel, was the Metroid Samus Returns for 3DS, which ended up being quite a big thing. So, I don't know, there might be some more surprise than that. It'd be cool to see.
Bayonetta 3. I hope they show more of Bayonetta 3 because they've only just announced it. So
yes, true. Who knows when that's coming? But speaking of E3, there is one company that have given a bit more of an indication about what they're bringing. CD Projekt Red. Apparently, showing an unnamed RPG at
I wonder
E3.
what it's going to be.
Surprise!
Are we excited about seeing some Cyberpunk 2077
excited.
stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
My body is ready.
Oh, I'm so ready for that. So on a scale of, this versus Red Dead 2, what would you be more excited for?
I know Cyberpunk by a mile, personally.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I don't care both equally.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We don't really have to choose, do we?
Yeah.
No.
Which
The
is
best
great.
part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, do we think we're going to get a full trailer this year? Or do we think we're just going to get a little bit more news about it being a 2019 release? I don't know.
I think they're going to blow the doors open.
Yeah?
I think it's going to be an in-depth look, like first half hour of the game, something crazy like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you're getting my hopes up now.
Fuck pushing you. Yeah.
I have
like
to
the way you
relax.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm super hoping for that too. That would be a showstopper. I wonder whether any of the console companies have thrown enough money at it to get any sort of exclusive treatment. I doubt it. That'd probably cost them a mint for this title because they know that they've got the global audience for this one. Yeah.
Microsoft had it for Witcher 2, but I don't think they could rope it in again for Cyberpunk. So
No, I mean that's starting to get towards Minecraft kind of money.
yeah.
Get that kind of thing again. Who knows? Yep, Cyberpunk, super pumped for that. Let's do it. Hit me with it. What else?
I'm
What else we got?
also very excited. They announced today Stardew Valley multiplayer's in beta. Hooray! You can have a crack at playing with up to, I think, 4 other people. So, of course, immediately Imogen, my sister, and I are making arrangements to have a farm where we will be farmhands. Cannot wait.
So let me get this straight. You'll have to take a break from your Minecraft farming to do Stardew Valley farming? Is that how this is going to work?
Right? I know. It's just going to be difficult. I guess if it's Mimo's farm, when she's not online, I'll Minecraft.
Yeah. Just think, Jamie, you can pull virtual weeds in more than one game at a time.
I know, right? Well, see, there's no virtual weeds in Sky Factory, which is what I'm playing because, well, Al nearly burnt our wooden platform down the other day. That was great. He was playing with lava. And I wanted to plant my orchard so desperately that I learned how to make some automated components so that I could get emeralds to trade for them.
Well, you can't get automated components in Stardew Valley, but you can now apparently get hats for horses. So there you go.
It's very important. Very important. I'm going to put little bows on them all, I think.
Seems like a worthy trade-off, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading a little bit about this today, and one thing that I thought was fascinating is that apparently if you do play up to 4 players with this multiplayer mode, you can actually have your player characters have relationships with each other and potentially marry each other as well, which is
I'm going to flirt with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's pretty much all the news items that we had listed, but because I did mention it earlier and I wanted to double back around to it, Infinity War. Fun fact, and this is just a little Easter egg that I want to drop for you without getting too spoilery. Did you know that there is actually an Infinity War Easter egg in God of War?
Really?
There is. So apparently they have actually managed...
I don't know if I want to know.
No, I mean, I'm not going to say anything about where it is or what it does, but there is something linking to Thanos in the game, which will be very, very obvious when you find it from what I have seen. So,
Well, I have found Thor's statue. Mm-hmm. So that was neat.
Yep. So
the way they describe him, though, is not Marvel Comics universe Thor at all. They call him an asshole, I'm pretty sure.
All the gods are assholes.
I just think it's hilarious that they actually managed to coordinate an Easter egg of this nature in the same week that the game launched, which is the same week that Infinity War came out. So that's some seriously awesome planning. So
very sneaky.
There you go.
Did you see the Easter egg in the collector's edition?
No, the map-related thing. I didn't read too much into it.
Just like I think it was just some like runes that were scattered around the map or something like that. And people found, I didn't see all the details, but they found like a hidden message in the game. It's like a heartfelt thank you from the developers, I believe.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Very sweet.
Yeah. Bit different to the last Easter egg of that nature, which I saw, which was the one in Metal Gear Survive, where it was a list of all of the people that potentially thwarted them and shut down the original Konami production. Anyway.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, bit better to have a heartfelt thank you as opposed to a diss
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, anyway, that's a whole bunch of cool news stuff. But we have a job to do tonight because it is, in fact, the first episode of the new month, which means that it is time for our party game of the month. So, Jam, what are we reviewing tonight?
We are reviewing Jason's suggestion, which is Rebuild 3 Gangs of Deadsville, which is available on a bunch of formats. I know it's on Steam and on iOS. Do we know if it's on other stuff? I have not checked.
Android's definitely on as well.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's developed and published by Northway Games, and it's cool. So the Steam description is, rebuild a ruined city in this post-apocalyptic mix of strategy and simulation. Manage survivors, scavenge for food and supplies, deal with rival gangs, illness, interpersonal strife, and zombie attacks. It's cool.
So we would basically put this one down in the 4X category. So anyone who's familiar with 4X games, like, your Civ and, there's a lot of board games that follow this format as well. And I'm probably going to get this wrong, but let me have a attempt of it. So 4X is stand for expand, explore, exploit, and exterminate. Yes, I got it. There you go.
Oh, well done. I never get all four.
Yeah. I think there's a fifth one in some games too. But anyway, so it's one of those games where you can basically, you move around a map, you expand your territory, you've got resources that you try and exploit to actually, fund your development and building. You've got the exterminate element because you actually have to fight different foes. In this case, because it's a zombie apocalypse themed game, you're basically killing hordes of zombies. And what was the X that I missed? I think it's all of it.
It's really cute. It's like a isometric cartoony version of State of Decay, and it's just super fun. You're trying to recruit people, but then you have to keep them fed, but at the same time they need like the resources and the weaponry to go out and kill zombies or deal with or fight off rival factions. There's a lot to keep track of. So my first town I played on easy mode. As I was learning the mechanics. I didn't want to sort of overwhelm myself too much. And there were a lot of things to click on, but not too much. It's a very intuitive kind of UI, I found. I really liked it. I did have to go searching to figure out a few things myself, but it's pretty neat. What did you think of it, like the sort of the learning curve?
Just in terms of the art style, because you mentioned it a second ago, one of the things that sort of clicked with me when I started thinking about the graphics of this game is it reminded me a lot of like a Saturday morning Nickelodeon cartoon, if you know what I mean. So that kind of comic-y style, but without being strict comic book. It was more cartoony than that. So like exaggerated features of the characters and a bit more character in the individual personalities involved, there is actually like a character customizer as well, like the main sort of personality that you build for your lead character. You can actually do like a character creation thing where you change a lot of their features and that sort of stuff, which is cool. So there's quite a bit of detail put into that, but it looks good without being great, I think is probably the way I'd put it. So yeah,
sounds like I'd be going a bit against the grain then, and I actually didn't like the look of it. I found it a bit ugly to look at personally, just for my taste.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's definitely a taste thing, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, just found it, just the character designs weren't very appealing, and the font choice and the way the UI was structured, it was easy enough to find everything, but I found it a bit messy, visually, and yeah, I mean, the game mechanics are solid, but I wasn't a big fan of the visuals.
Yeah, that's fair.
What
did you guys
released
play it on?
in 2015, so, it's pretty good. It's already, a 3-year-old game.
Well, we should probably mention, too, that, the title Rebuild 3 is that this is the third iteration of the game format. They'd actually previously done, Rebuild 1 and Rebuild 2, which is a similar kind of, zombie apocalypse themed game, but they'd iterated on it a number of times and just built it out and made the game a lot more complex and detailed. So, Jason,
what platform?
I played it on iOS, so yeah.
Me too. iPad.
I played it on Steam.
Okay, interesting. Jan, did you go phone or pad for yours? iPad. Okay, so we all got a bit of a variety then, because I played it on my phone. So, yeah.
I think I might have liked it more if I played it on a mobile device or a tablet, perhaps, because I was playing it as a home PC experience.
Yeah.
With that sort of expectation in mind, I didn't actually know it was a mobile game at the time, or that it had a mobile port at the time. So yeah, maybe I would have cut it a bit more slack visually if it was on mobile.
Yeah, it
pretty
really
sure
works.
it's cheaper on mobile as well. Like, because on Steam it's like $15 US. On mobile, I think it's $7 or $8. So
Yeah.
Okay.
It works really well on mobile. The touchscreen is very comfortable in accessing everything you need to once you know where to look, basically.
I think that, Jam, you probably played it on the Optimum format. Like, I thought it was fine on phone, but because there is quite a bit of stuff on the UI, like some of the screens, there's a lot of different clickable controls and stuff. I did find that it was a bit crowded on the phone screen. I probably would have been better off playing it on, like, a tablet.
Yeah, and I wasn't too concerned in my first game because it was a small town, but in my second town, city, whatever, it started growing quite a bit, and I basically had people all around the edges of my forts, staving off, dangers and going scouting and that sort of thing. So it was really handy on the iPad. I mean, I played on an iPad mini, but it was still really handy being able to zoom out on the map and still encompass everything quite comfortably and see where people were and what they were doing.
Yeah.
To understand where threats were coming from and that sort of thing as I pushed the edge of my fort out block by block. So that was really cool. I think that was probably the ideal version.
Yeah, I mean, you can pinch and sort of slide to get to different areas in the map, but I agree with you. Like, being able to see more stuff in one view without having to shrink it too much, I think really does help your chances of keeping an eye on where all your attack vectors are coming from. So, yeah, which is cool. So, I mean, mechanics-wise, what did you guys think of that? Like, I did notice that this is a game that comes with external wikis. It is something that people have spent a lot of time detailing how different strategies work.
I think it's really good because each character can be skilled in one of 4 different attributes. They can be a fighter, they can be a scavenger, they can be a builder or a researcher. And your main character is capable of skilling up in all 4. And actually building on those. And that was really handy because as you recruit people, sometimes it's random, but sometimes you get to elect what they skill up in, which helps you balance because, you might only need a couple of scavengers to start with, but you'll find as the danger increases, you need more and more fighters. And then in order to keep building out your borders and also building up your what's it called? Upgrading. Upgrading your buildings. You'll need more builders. So it's you sort of organically have to grow things based on the size and what you focused on. And that was it was a neat aspect and a way to balance it sort of superficially. And then if you get sort of crafty with it a little deeper, the things that you equip them with and the relationships that they develop can also influence how well they do at their job. You can give them items that just straight boost, but you can also, if you come across an orphan, have one of them adopt it and look after it until it becomes an adult, at which point you gain that extra member and that resource for your town. But while they're sort of the ward of this character, they can't equip another item in that slot and they get slight disadvantage to some of their stats. So there's this really neat little details in how they've balanced out sort of the realities behind such a disastrous event, as trying to rebuild a post-apocalyptic city, which was really cute, I thought.
Yeah. Now, the amount of sort of tools that you have at your disposal when it comes to the characters and what they can do, I'm actually really glad that this game, it's a real-time game, but I'm glad that it had a lot of customization around the time settings, like how quickly the game progresses, because I started off super, super quick and found myself slowing it right down when the game got a bit busier.
It took me 10 minutes to find the speed up thing.
Oh, really?
I assigned people to do their jobs, and I was sitting there man, this game's taking ages.
Yeah.
And then I was like, surely there's a way to speed it up. And then I found it. So
yeah.
It took me 30 seconds because I was ready to write it off if I had to wait through at the slowest pace for those missions to complete. I would have been like, nope.
Yeah, not gonna.
But I pretty much had it on 3/4 or full, and then I'd hit stop when I needed to take care of something.
I did it,
yeah. One
full
complaint I did have around the time duration stuff and the UI, though, is every character as they're completing an action on the map actually has a circular sort of bar next to their name, which fills up as they complete whatever action they're doing. It shat me that part of that circle was actually covered up by the action that they'd selected. So often you'd look at them and you couldn't tell how full the bar was. was just
It
like,
doesn't matter. It's a tiny portion. You still have to wait for it to complete down the bottom.
It's so annoying, Jeff.
No, I didn't notice that.
That's hilarious.
I mean, just the attention to detail for me it was just like, man, that's something they could have easily avoided. It just annoyed me so much. I don't know.
One thing that annoyed me initially, the character level, like their level of skill, is usually visible on the little icon on the map, like next to their face. And they started getting filled up with these little speech bubbles. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell? Why can't I see? And I ignored it for a while until more and more characters had those pop up. I finally went into my the book where you can control, loadouts and all of the characters in it, and I realized that I could click on them. And they basically wanted a little conversation with your main character. And if you went through it and listened to some of their story, you got to give them a perk, which skilled them up somehow.
Oh.
Which was
I never saw that.
Oh, it's so neat. It's how you give little boosts to all of your characters. But I didn't notice it until I had about 20 people with these stupid little speech bubbles obscuring their level. I was going, okay, this has got to be a thing. It's not just like, loading, can't compute. What am I missing? And I did have to go digging for it. But it was a really cool way. You basically listen to their story about their experiences before they joined your town. And then you get an option, and the option's usually sort of related to the story they have to tell. Like you can classify them as a loner, which I think means they don't lose happiness as much if they get sent out on missions alone. But they also find it slightly harder to develop relationships with other characters. Things like that. Or straight up +3 to, building because they're really handy with tools.
Right.
It's really cool. And they build too, the longer your character is with your town, the more you can go back and listen to more of their story and give them extra perks, which was really neat.
I did not pick up on that at all. That's amazing.
There's so many cool little details. Have you had relationships? Has your main character had the option of having a relationship with anyone else?
I have noticed some of the characters sort of build up like a nemesis relationship with other characters or friendships with them. Yeah.
Okay. See, I keep my people happy, so that hasn't happened. But my main character had the option of starting a relationship with someone, and it has persisted through the towns because I've kept him alive, and I've kept him traveling with me as I leave the first town to go to the second.
Okay.
It's a progressive thing that adds to this campaign storyline. Even though these towns are randomly generated, there's this ongoing little mini narrative happening in the background, and it's really neat. I love it.
Yeah, I must admit, from the get-go when the game actually begins and this short amount of story that you got, I was ready to just kind of throw it away at first as this is just something you get when you start, and then the rest of it's just going to be, this ongoing real-time strategy game, and that's it for narrative. But they actually managed to weave in the narrative reasonably effectively with some of the random event choices that pop up, and you have to actually make the decision about whether you're going to take a survivor into your community or not, and there's, something can happen if you do, something can happen if you don't. I had one bit where one of my villagers discovered a hidden door in the basement of a building which had warning painted all over it, and you have to decide on whether you want to brick it in or actually open it up and explore. And there's a whole bunch of things like that which really fit the zombie apocalypse theme that I thought were quite well done, sort of adding to the narrative. And
then the resource management behind it too is really good. On the surface you've got ammo, food, building materials, fuel, and medicine to help your people survive. And you need to keep the food and the materials up because the materials are how you sort of expand your fort, and food is how you feed your people. They start getting miserable if they're not eating, clearly. The other ones are sort of, you can use them for the obvious things, or you can trade them as commodities.
So there's different factions that pop up as well that you can trade with when they become available, which was interesting.
Yeah, it's neat. But then behind all of that, as you develop and get your research going, in the first town, I could only research sort of 3 headline categories of things, from zombies to survivor management, and I forget the third. Mm-hmm. In the second town I've gone to, I've upped my difficulty, and I've been able to, each of those has branched out into 2 further that I've been able to research again. And on top of that, because the city's bigger that I'm in, there are resources on the map that I can take over and then try and repair in order to improve the quality of life of my people, like a water treatment plant or a power plant. So I've actually got running water and power in my fort, in my second city, but it's required little mini quests that I have to gather resources for and commit people to in order to get them up and running. And then I have to protect them from sabotage from other factions or from zombies. So it's like, on the surface, it's a super fun, resource management game, and it's really neat. But then the more you play, I'm very keen to play further. It adds difficulty and detail in interesting new ways. It's really cool.
Yeah. Hey, Christian, how far did you get with it? Did you actually successfully finish a city?
Yeah, I got into a second town, but didn't complete a second town. Mm-hmm. And yeah, my thoughts are quite different to Jam's. I am not a big fan of the game. I think just one, I'm over zombies. I don't like the zombie setting. I don't like the way the game looks. I had to turn the music off immediately because I found the music annoying. And I'm not a big fan of resource management and sort of micromanagement in games in general. So didn't sort of speak to my taste in games. I think that there are other games I've played that do what this game's trying to do, but a bit better. Like I'd rather go back to This War of Mine or even something like Banner Saga. I like these little games where you have like a group of people and you have to, survive and make decisions. But I just didn't. There's something about Rebuild 3 that just didn't grab me. The tone didn't mesh with the art style, and the mechanics are a bit fiddly, and yeah, it just wasn't my game.
I kind of land somewhere between the two of you, I think. Like, I enjoyed it. There was a repetitive nature to the game that kind of, like, turned me off a little bit. But to Jan's point, I think that the more you kind of overlook that and actually get involved in some of the deeper aspects of the strategy, the more you can kind of forgive it, because there actually is quite a bit going on if you choose to look for it. So you can kind of play the game a bit like a clicker and just kind of, not pay attention to your skill trees and just throw dudes at zombies and try and, stem the tide, if you like. And it becomes, a bit repetitive and a bit boring. But if you take the time to actually mess with your guys and sort of, I guess, optimize a little bit, it can be quite interesting and fun to sort of do that. I completely agree with Christian, though, on the music. The sound was just...
I like it.
Oh, it was repetitive.
I turned it down. I turned it quite quiet because it was too loud when I started it up.
Yeah.
But I like how every now and then one of the songs that pops up, it sounds super threatening and like doomsday.
Like it, yeah.
Like, ooh.
For me, this was a podcast game. Like, I was listening to a podcast while playing it. It's just like, yeah.
I think I had Twitch on my other monitor.
It's not like that, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think that this game would hold my attention if I was playing it on my PC. There's much better things I could be doing with my time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But
I'm super surprised at how much I'm enjoying it, though. At the start, I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And I've just become more and more intrigued about the opportunities that pop up because I've realized that the complexity is progressive. And normally, like if they'd tried to introduce all of this, when I just started, I probably would have just been like, nah, I can't be bothered learning. But because I've learned each thing in quite a natural sort of process, I'm having a lot of fun managing all of my people and absolutely destroying the other factions because they shit me.
Yeah, that's
I am wiping them out. They don't exist anymore. I'm not making friends. It didn't work.
No, just laying waste. Yeah. All right, well, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, our final thoughts. So, Christian, not a huge fan. I would probably land on, I would recommend it if you enjoy these sorts of games. If you don't, then probably not. Jam, you're having fun, so that's good.
Yeah. So 100% get it on a tablet. It's cheaper and it just works.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I'd recommend that. I think that's a better choice.
For sure. All right, well, that is pretty much our May party game, and we need to roll up a freshie. So before we do...
I have a device.
Jam has the device, the randomizer.
I have the device, yes.
So because I heard Christian do the spiel on his Twitch channel last night, and he did such a good job of it, I think we can throw this one to him. So what do people need to do to suggest a party game for our list, Christian?
All right, so the first thing to do is there's some rules for the games you're going to suggest to us. So we want the game to be out already. So something that's actually released, not coming soon. We don't want to be delayed or have to wait for it. So the game has to be released. It has to be available on PC, mobile, or multi-platform. So no console exclusives. We don't want to be paying more than $30 US for it because it is just our party game of the month. So please no $90 AAA games.
Yeah, we do this every month.
Yeah. And we'd like to be able to get a good impression of the game from a few hours of play. So maybe not an MMO or something super grindy that you'd have to play for a long time. And yeah, if you can think of any game that fits that bill that you'd like to see us play, you can shoot us an email to mail@partyloaded.com, or you can suggest it on our Twitter page @partyloadedshow, or our Facebook, Party Loaded, or if you happen to catch a Twitch stream, you can just jump into the chat at twitch.tv/partyloaded and just, drop it in our Twitch chat while we play.
Yeah. Might actually find an opportunity to play some of these on the channel as well, depending on the format and what it is.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, to that end, after that fantastic explanation, Jam, you have the randomizer.
Yes, I do.
So
Here we go.
am waiting on the edge of my seat. Go for it.
All right. 8. What's 8?
8.
RimWorld.
8 is yours, Jam.
We were actually talking about this just before the show started. Yeah. This looks quite interesting. So this was your choice, Jam.
It was. I remember when it came out, being super keen to play it and getting distracted by all sorts of other things. It's got an overwhelmingly positive review. Sci-fi colony sim driven by an intelligent AI storyteller. Inspired by Dwarf Fortress and Firefly. I mean, how cool does that sound?
Inspired by Dwarf Fortress. Oh, shit.
So, yeah, you land on the planet and you got to build your thing out. And I just remember people talking about, like, the little random events that happen in the dialogue that happens between the characters make for some really cool stories.
Okay.
As you sort of build up the colony.
Interesting.
It looks a bit like Prison Architect. It's in early access. It's $30. Ooh, I just squeezed under it's $29.99.
Oh, Jam, better be good.
It's had some fantastic reviews.
Okay.
So
I've heard very good things.
Is it single player or multiplayer or?
Single player.
Okay, cool.
So we'll have to jump online and share what we discover to make it easier to survive our worlds.
Sounds good. Cool. All right. Well, we'll be playing that one over the course of the next few weeks, ready to review at the beginning of June. So, yes, probably something that we will need to squeeze in amongst a fair bit of other action this month. So,
little bit.
Yeah. Well, what's everybody else got on in the coming weeks? It was a first order of business with picking up God of War when I returned. Also picked up Yakuza 6. So,
oh, nice.
I'll try and squeeze that in at some point as well. God knows when. Too many games, not enough time. What's everyone else got on at the moment?
I've had the worst gaming ADD because I ended up with an upgraded GPU. So I've got a 1070 in my rig now.
Nice.
And so I've been just cycling through all of the games, no matter how briefly or prolonged, just to see how pretty they look with my small upgrade. It's pretty cool. So who knows? I'll be playing anything and everything.
Yeah.
But Stardew Valley.
That's a real good test for that GPU.
So I'll be going hard on God of War.
Yeah.
And then still streaming on my Twitch channel. And might try and fit some Yakuza in between, but probably just focusing on God of War.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm just going to play all the things. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know.
You've had withdrawal.
Yeah, Yakuza is calling out. I'm not going to touch the Detroit playable trailer until the main game releases. I don't think there's much point in doing that until the full game's here, but I am looking forward to it. I'm hoping that it is a bit more than what we thought it was, but yeah, I don't know. I've also been pulling my DS out again recently, so I don't know. Might try and cram some DS gaming in transit or something. I don't know. God of War is certainly the most appetizing looking thing at the moment, though, by a mile. All right, well, until we get around to talking about some of those things next week, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you again in 7 days' time. But until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.